Gabrielle Bonheur Chanel, better known as Coco Chanel, was a woman of a great importance not only in the history of fashion, but in the history of the 20th century. She was born on the 29th of August 1883 in Saumur, a little village in the northeast of France. Daughter of Albert Chanel, a street vendor, and Eugene Jean Deveau, a peasant. She had an older sister, Julia Berthe, and four younger siblings, Alphonse, Antoinette, Lucienne, and Augustine, who died soon after being born. Her first years of life were rough. They lived under very precarious conditions, and when she was only 11 years old, her mom died of bronchitis. Her dad decided to give his kids an adoption. The boys went with a host family of peasants, and the girls to the orphanage of the Congregation of the Sacred Heart of Mary, in the monastery of Aubazin, in the center of the country. There, she learned how to sew, embroider, and iron. When she turned 18, she was sent to a religious boarding school in the town of Moulins. She soon found a job helping a local dressmaker, and during her free time, she started going to cafes, cabarets, where she participated in small music shows. She wanted to become a singer, and she moved to the touristic town Vichy to try some luck. However, she would soon forget about that artistic project when she found out she didn't really have a good voice. So she decided to go back to her old job. But a new door opened for her when she was 23 and met a socialite and rich heir called Etienne Balsan. They fell in love and moved together to the Royaulieu Castle in the north of Paris, where Coco had the opportunity to be around people from the high classes in society. The relationship came to an end, but in 1908, Coco met one of her life partners, the English captain Arthur Edward Capel. Even though they never made the relationship official, they were very close to each other. Arthur believed so much in Coco's talent that he helped her fund her first stores in Paris. She started making hats for fun, which she later on showed in social events such as horse racing. Her creations called so much attention that in 1909 she opened a store in the city. In 1913 she opened a second one in Deauville, in the coast of Normandy, where she also sold casual luxury clothes. Coco Chanel's designs stood out for breaking with the opulence of the times, creating a line of simple and comfortable clothes, though keeping their elegance. When in 1915 she opened a new store in the luxurious coastal city of Biarritz, next to the Spanish border, she earned enough money to give back the money her couple had invested on her. In 1916, she presented her first collection, published in the Vogue magazine, and soon after, she established her fashion house with more than 300 employees. She started selling her clothes in the biggest stores in the US. But in 1919, she suffered a hard setback when Arthur Cape, with whom she had been together for about 10 years, died in a car accident. In 1921, Coco created her first perfume, Chanel No. 5. Based in jasmine, the bottle was also designed by Coco herself, finding inspiration in the dresser bottles Arthur used. It was a total success, and she soon signed its distribution with Pierre Wertheimer, director of the bourgeois perfume and cosmetics house. However, the conditions of the contract were quite abusive, and Coco had to fight for years to have the control of the commercialization of her fragrances back. Thanks to her contacts, she accessed the high classes of the British society, where she met the Duke of Westminster, Hugh Richard Arthur Grosvenor. When years later she was asked why she never married him, she would answer, "There have been lots of Duchesses of Westminster, but there's only one Chanel." In 1931, she took a new leap in her career when she traveled to Hollywood and signed a contract with the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer to dress the greatest stars of the times, like Gloria Swanson, Greta Garbo, or Marlene Dietrich. However, her designs didn't really convince the cinematic mecca. They were looking for something more sumptuous, and Coco herself left, disgusted by their bad taste. By 1935, her company had 4,000 employees, but she started losing her first place in the fashion world with the emergence of other designers, such as Elsa Schiaparelli, who presented clothes full of festive and surreal details. In 1939, when the Second World War started, she closed all her stores except for the main boutique. According to her, They weren't times for fashion. And here comes a controversial time in her life. During the Nazi occupation in Paris, she lived in the Ritz Hotel with the German high officers. This, along with her influences with politicians, soldiers, and the high society, led to accusations of her collaborating with the Nazis. However, both Coco and the Chanel house always denied any type of implication. After the war, she was interrogated by a research committee and set free. The following 10 years, she lived in Lausanne, Switzerland, away from the fashion world, until she decided it was time to come back. And in 1954, she reopened her high fashion house. Little by little, Coco Chanel was able to come back to the Olympus of fashion. Great personalities such as Elizabeth Taylor, Grace Kelly, Maria Callas, Audrey Hepburn, or the first U.S. Duchess, Jackie Kennedy, became ambassadors of her style. She created new perfumes such as Pour Monsieur, Chanel's first main fragrance, and she also took the leap to working with precious metals, designing her own line of jewels and costume jewelry. However, towards her last years, she started to isolate herself and become weaker and weaker, DH, and she turned into a lonely person only accessible to her closest friends. In the beginning of 1971, she was working in her spring collection when she suffered a heart attack. She died on January 10th in the Ritz Hotel in Paris, where she had been living for 30 years. Coco Chanel's great contribution to the fashion world and the looks of several generations is evident. She proved elegance can go hand to hand with comfort or pragmatism, providing women with lots of freedom when it came to clothes and dressing. We are sure her style will be out there in the shop windows for a long, long time.